We will begin our presentation in a few moments. But first, let's establish a few ground rules. Today's discussion will focus on some items to consider before applying for retirement. If you've already applied for retirement, you may also want to join us for the broadcast on actions to take following approval for retirement, since that briefing will cover relocation processing and other pertinent actions. We will be providing a lot of information today, so we ask that you hold your questions until the end of the session, since we'll cover most during the briefing. To ensure everyone receives the most accurate and up-to-date information, please refrain from answering a question someone else asks. We have subject matter experts available to respond to the questions, and we will do our best to answer everything within our allotted time. Additionally, the slides will be available for download at the end of today's presentation. We will be broadcasting live sessions periodically so you can communicate directly with us through the chat process. We have future broadcasts scheduled for our Retirements 101 webinar and actions required following retirement approval. If something in today's briefing needs to be explained in greater detail, or you have suggestions for future topics, please let us know by emailing us directly. We will provide our organizational email address at the end of today's session.
Hello, and welcome to today's webinar. We will cover issues you need to consider prior to submitting a voluntary retirement application, and we will touch on some general information for retirement pay. My name is Staff Sergeant Young.
And I am Senior Airman de Venecia.
We will serve as your narrators today. Today's briefing is aimed at enlisted members of the regular component. If you are pending retirement actions under the Disability Evaluation System, please contact the Air Force Personnel Center Disability Division for information regarding your retirement process. Throughout this briefing, we will mention the Retirement Approval Authority, which is typically the AFPC Military Retirements and Separation Section. However, for Chief Master Sergeants and Chief Selects who require a waiver to retire, the approval authority is the Air Force Chiefs Group. If you have any questions during this presentation, please make note of them, and we will take time at the end of the session to answer them.
We will also discuss factors that affect the retirement date you plan to request, including permissive TDY and terminal leave. In requesting retirement in lieu of an assignment or extended deployment, commonly known as a 7-day or 3-day option. Then, we'll finish with information concerning retirement pay, including demotion prior to retirement and the career status bonus and how each may affect your retired pay. Now that you have a brief description on what we will be covering, let's get started.
This slide displays some of the topics we will cover today. We will begin by briefly discussing some basic information on eligibility criteria, like how to determine when you reach retirement eligibility, active duty service commitments, and how medical and administrative hold affects your retirement. These items and many more will play a vital role in determining your eligibility for retirement. We will also discuss some factors that can prevent or delay retirement processing.
The basic rules for retirement are fairly simple. You must complete at least 20 years of active military service before your desired retirement date. Additionally, you are required to complete all active duty service commitments prior to retiring. While active duty service commitments are waiverable, there are only certain conditions that warrant approval. We'll discuss more on the waiver process in a few moments. And finally, to be eligible for retirement, you must not have any adverse actions pending, like an Article 15, court-martial, or administrative discharge.
As we mentioned, you must complete 20 years of active service by your desired retirement date. You can determine your active service time by reviewing your service dates in the virtual NPF under self-service actions. Just click on the service date section. Your total active federal military service date accounts for all of your active duty time, including all credible active duty, guard, and reserve time. The Air Force uses this date to determine when you are eligible to retire. Voluntary retirements are always effective on the first day of the month. Therefore, the earliest retirement date you may request is the first day of the month following completion of 20 years of active service. However, if you have any limiting factors such as an unfulfilled active duty service commitment, that commitment may prevent the Retirement Approval Authority from authorizing retirement on the date you request.
One hurdle you may experience is not having the required retainability for your desired retirement date. The Retirement Approval Authority may only approve you for a retirement date prior to, or the day following, your date of separation. For example, if your DOS is July 31st, you may request a retirement date no later than 1st August. However, if you don't have sufficient retainability to serve until your desired retirement date, you may still initiate the retirement process by asking for a retirement eligibility check. During the retirement eligibility review, your record is verified to ensure you meet all other requirements, and you will be provided the paperwork to accomplish an extension of enlistment. You will need to take the paperwork provided to your reenlistment office at the local military personnel flight to complete your extension. After your military personnel flight determines you are eligible to extend and the military personnel data system is updated, you must then resubmit for another eligibility check based on your updated DOS.
In addition to considering the minimum time required for retirement, you must also be aware of the maximum time you can serve. Enlisted members are limited to the number of years they can serve according to Air Force policy called High Year of Tenure. Currently, the High Year of Tenure, or HYT, for the top 5 grades is shown here. Senior airmen are limited to 10 years of active service. In rare instances, you can request a waiver to this limitation when you are near your HYT. Requests are only approved when you are experiencing an extreme personal hardship or when it is shown to be in the best interest of the Air Force. Approval is based on many factors like manning and the documentation submitted, and extensions are normally limited to 12 months additional service. Although there are minimum and maximum limits established for service, you must apply for retirement. If you don't apply, you will be separated upon your DOS and receive no benefits.
If you are otherwise eligible, you may remain on active duty through the last day of your HYT month. If you decided to retire in conjunction with your HYT date, you will request a retirement date to be effective the first day of the month following your HYT. For example, if your HYT date is 15 July, you may request a retirement date for 1 August. This will allow you to complete the maximum service authorized for your grade.
You have seen how critical your HYT and total active federal military service dates are when determining retirement. One more important date to consider is your Title 10 United States Code 1405 date, or just simply your 1405 date. Your 1405 date is the multiplier used when computing your retirement pay. Therefore, we highly recommend you review your 1405 date as well as your other service dates. You can verify this date by looking in the service date section of the virtual NPF. It will reside in the same area as your total active federal military service date. If, for some reason, your 1405 date is not updated in the system, this won't prevent you from applying for retirement. However, before the Retirement Approval Authority can process your application, they must ensure that this date is computed and updated in your record. This could slow down your retirement approval notification, so don't get worried if it takes a little time for your retirement application to be processed. It could take a few weeks for your service date office to validate your record. If corrections or updates are required, we coordinate with the service dates office to complete this action. So there is no need for you to contact their office and duplicate efforts.
Active duty service commitments, often referred as ADSCs, are probably the most common limitations you must consider prior to requesting retirement. ADSCs ensure the Air Force and our taxpayers receive an appropriate return for their investment in training and education. ADSCs also communicate to Air Force members the periods of obligated service they must complete before becoming eligible to separate or retire from active duty. If your retirement date is on or before completion of your ADSC, then a waiver is required. The most common requests are for PCS ADSCs, Senior NCO Promotion ADSC, and the commitment incurred for the post 9/11 GI Bill.
An ADSC waiver will only be approved for one of two reasons: when it is in the best interest of the Air Force, or when you are experiencing an extreme hardship uncommon to other military members. If you need a waiver of an ADSC, you must provide clear evidence to support your request. If you request a waiver that would be in the best interest of the Air Force, the evidence must clearly show a significant impact on the unit mission and the Air Force. If you are undergoing a hardship, the justification must show that you are experiencing something uncommon to other military members that either surfaced or worsened after you accepted the service commitment. If your justification doesn't clearly meet the criteria, your retirement application will be disapproved. We often use the term exception to policy, or ETP, interchangeably with the term waiver. To request a waiver or an ETP, you need to prepare a memorandum outlining your rationale for the request, which includes a recommendation from your commander. You can submit this and any supporting documentation by attaching it to your retirement request in the virtual NPF. The documentation you provide is the primary source of information the approval authority will consider. Therefore, please be sure your request is well justified. Additionally, supporting statements from counselors or medical personnel are vital to a successful outcome. Fully justified requests will enable the Retirement Approval Authority to properly determine the appropriate disposition of your case. While the majority of the cases received are processed through our office, there are some circumstances requiring us to send the case to the Secretary of the Air Force for review and disposition. We can identify these cases as they come in, and this requires no additional action by you unless requested by our office.
AFI 36-3203, Service Retirements, also outlines conditions that are considered common to many retiring members and are not accepted as waiver justification. As you can see, the situations listed here are not in the best interest of the Air Force or uncommon to most military members. Therefore, we cannot approve waivers for these reasons. Additionally, simple statements like saving the Air Force money don't, don't clearly explain why a waiver should be approved since early retirement, in most cases, saves money. There needs to be more evidence for us to consider a waiver request.
The post 9/11 GI Bill transferability benefit has by far been the most requested ADSC waiver in recent years. Most of the requests we receive come from customers who are unfamiliar with the terms associated with the post 9/11 GI Bill or the 4-year ADSC incurred with the election of this entitlement. Many members who revoke the post 9/11 GI Bill benefit do so with the assumption it automatically cancels out their ADSC. However, that is not true. AFI 36-2649 Voluntary Education Program and the application in Mill Connect state that revocation of transfer benefits does not automatically cancel the member's active duty service commitment. Therefore, if you wish to retire prior to your ADSC completion date, you must provide justification to support the waiver request, but there is no guarantee it will be approved. Additionally, unless you are approved for a waiver of the ADSC due to hardship conditions, you must pay back any used portion of the benefit, and you will lose the transferability option. Please keep in mind, if your justification doesn't clearly meet the criteria, your retirement application will be disapproved.
You must consider your service commitments when requesting a retirement date. In the top example, if you currently have a DOS of 31 July and an ADSC that expires 15 June, you should request a retirement date of 1 July or later to allow you to fulfill your ADSC. If you request a retirement date of 1 June or earlier, you will require a waiver of the ADSC. There is one exception to the ADSC rule. If your current high year of tenure does not allow you to request a retirement date after your ADSC expires, then no waiver is required if you request to retire the month following your HYT. For instance, if you have an HYT of 15 March and request a retirement date of 1 April, the Retirement Approval Authority will automatically waive the unserved portion of your ADSC to allow you to retire.
The assignment availability codes outlined in the Military Personnel Data System normally help us identify other factors that can impact your retirement. The most common codes which prevent or delay retirement are Code 15, pending court-martial or civil court proceedings, Code 17, under security force, OSI investigation, Code 37, pending a medical evaluation board or a physical evaluation board, and Code 50, maximum tour. Remember, these are not all of the assignment availability codes that could affect your retirement. If your personnel record reflects one of these codes or some other code you think may impact your eligibility, you should contact your local military personnel flight or the local medical treatment facility for information and assistance. Now that you have seen some of the basic requirements for your retirement, let's look at when you can request a retirement date. As we said before, all voluntary retirements must be effective on the first day of the month. Additionally, applications can only be submitted within 12 months of the desired effective date. For example, if you want to retire 1 October 2019, you may submit your application no earlier than 1 October 2018.
Additionally, requests for retirement should be submitted at least 120 days in advance of the desired retirement date. For example, if you apply by 1 August, the earliest retirement date you may request is 1 December of that year. If you apply after that, for example, on August 15, the earliest retirement date you may request is 1 January. This advance notice allows us, the Retirement Approval Authority, sufficient time to process your request and also allows your assignment team to identify a replacement if necessary. You may request a waiver to this notification requirement. Just like waivers to ADSCs, you will need to prepare a justification outlining your rationale for the request that shows a short notice retirement is in the best interest of the Air Force, or that you are experiencing an extreme personal hardship uncommon to other members. Your justification must also include a recommendation from your commander. You can submit this and any supporting documentation by attaching it to your retirement request in the virtual NPF.
Besides requesting ADSC waivers, members often request retirement in lieu of a 365-day extended TDY or an assignment. To do this, you must meet the parameters of the program, commonly referred to as the 3-day option or 7-day option. If you are notified of a 365-day extended TDY and you want to retire in lieu of the deployment, you only have 3 duty days to submit an application. If you are notified of a PCS assignment, you have 7 calendar days to initiate the retirement action. The rules of the 3-day option and the 7-day option programs are the same except for the election period. To be eligible, you must normally be able to retire no later than the first day of the 7th month following notification. Members often request exceptions to the 3-day or 7-day option program, such as waivers of ADSCs or being allowed to request retirement after the option period is over. As with any other waiver request, you must provide justification to show an extreme personal hardship is occurring or that it would be in the best interest of the Air Force to approve the request. While some exceptions are approved, many are not. Therefore, we encourage you to carefully consider your options during the election period.
In order to apply for retirement under the 3-day or 7-day option program, you must submit a retirement eligibility check within option period. That is, within 3 duty days of TDY notification or 7 calendar days of assignment notification. If you are applying in lieu of an assignment, you must still acknowledge the assignment in the virtual MPF before applying for retirement. For a 365-day extended TDY, you must complete and attach the TDY notification memorandum directly to your case by uploading it via your My Account on the BMPF. Be sure to have the appropriate authorities sign the memorandum before attaching it to your case. Also remember, if you are requesting a retirement date prior to completion of an ADSC, your request may be disapproved if you don't justify a waiver of that ADSC. As explained earlier, the strength of your justification is based on supporting documents you provide.
As you see here, the basic requirement for the 7-day option or 3-day option program is to retire no later than the first day of the 7th month following the notification. In this example, the appropriate authority notifies Master Sergeant Jane Smith on 15 June, so the latest retirement day she may request is 1 January of the following year. She may request a date prior to the first day of the 7th month, provided she is otherwise eligible. However, there are some exceptions to this rule that we will discuss in a moment.
If you apply for retirement and there is an assignment or deployment loaded in the system, even if you have not been notified, you are still subject to the 3-day or 7-day option programs. This means you must be eligible to retire no later than the first day of the 7th month from notification. As we mentioned, before you can request retirement, you must acknowledge your assignment through the virtual NPF or attach the completed TDY notification memorandum to your online retirement application. The Retirement Approval Authority can then complete your eligibility check to allow you to submit your retirement application.
Although you might not be aware, there are other exceptions to the 3-day or 7-day option programs. If you are notified of the event inside of your 19th year and are not eligible to retire on the first day of the 7th month, you may apply to retire no later than the first day of the month after you become retirement eligible. Let's look at some examples that may better explain this.
In this first example, the member has a total active federal military service date of 15 September 1999, and he is notified on 23 September 2018. At this time of notification, the member has 19 years of service and may request a retirement for 1 October 2019, which is the first month he is retirement eligible. In example 2, a member whose total active federal military service date is 15 August 1999 is notified of an assignment on 31st October 2018. Since the member must apply for retirement the first month eligible, he or she must request a retirement of 1 September 2019.
With the creation of the virtual NPF, nearly all members retiring from overseas can now complete processing prior to departing the overseas area. However, there may be times when you are required to travel to an Air Force base in the United States to complete your final actions. Requests for this travel are limited to those members stationed at locations where processing facilities do not exist, and it is not feasible to send the member on temporary duty to a nearby installation to complete processing. In very rare cases, if you are stationed at locations where facilities do exist, you may be authorized to travel to a U.S. base when you can provide documentation to show you're experiencing a unique personal hardship or that the travel to a separation processing base would be in the best interest of the Air Force. You must submit a request for travel to a separation processing base at least 60 days prior to departure. Examples of the request are outlined in the Personnel Services Delivery Guide on the Separation Processing Base program at the link shown on this slide. You can also contact the Total Force Service Center for assistance.
You're probably wondering when your last duty day will be once you are approved for retirement. This depends on whether or not your commander authorizes you to take permissive TDY and/or terminal leave in conjunction with your retirement. Permissive TDY is non-chargeable leave. Your commander may authorize up to 20 days if you are retiring from a stateside base, or up to 30 days if you are retiring from an overseas location. The purpose of permissive TDY is to help you in transition from active duty civilian status and should be used for things like job and house hunting. Terminal leave is any leave that you have earned that is taken in conjunction with your retirement date. But after your final out process from your unit, both terminal leave and permissive TDY are subject to approval by your commander. Remember, your commander may authorize all, some, or none of your requested leave and permissive TDY.
When calculating your departure date, one thing to consider is that you will still be earning leave while you're on leave. You will accrue 2.5 days of leave per month up to your retirement date. However, the same rules of leave accrual apply, such as the maximum amount of carryover from one physical year to another. Currently, this maximum is 60 days. So if you are planning on taking terminal leave through 30 September, such as from 1 September to 30 November, and you have more than a maximum allowable amount of leave to carry over, your leave balance will be automatically reduced to the maximum number of carryover days. Be sure to adjust your departure date accordingly to account for this, or take normal leave before you out process to use any days over the maximum allowable amount to avoid losing them. You may not request to extend and approve retirement solely to take leave that you did not account for. On the next slide, you will see an example of how to calculate your retirement leave.
In our example, Master Sergeant John Doe is requesting a retirement date of 1 December. This is how he would figure out his leave dates. In our example here, Master Sergeant John Doe has a current leave balance of 47 days at the end of July. He will continue to earn leave all the way through November. By the end of November, he will have accrued a total of 57 days of leave that he may take as terminal. If the commander also approves the maximum amount of permissive TDY, in this case 20 days, that brings the total to 77 days. Then, you simply start with the last day of chargeable leave, 30 November, and count backwards 77 days. For Master Sergeant Doe, his last duty day would be 14 September, and he'll begin his permissive TDY and terminal leave on the 15th.
Now, let's go over some general pay rules. Many transactions occur when a member retires, such as calculation of terminal leave and permissive TDY, selling leave back, repayment of any pending debts to the government, and so on. Because of this, a member's final active duty paycheck is usually delayed by a few weeks, so members should be prepared financially in case this happens. A member's final active duty pay will include payment for all unused leave minus any half-day balance, but all earned final active duty pay will go toward any indebtedness to the government prior to being paid to the member.
Now, unlike active duty pay, you will only receive retirement pay once a month. Normally, you can expect your first retirement paycheck the first day of the month after your retirement effective date. For example, if you retire on 1 August, you should receive your first retirement paycheck 1st September. Many things we mentioned about your final active duty check may also affect the calculations of your retired pay, like debts to the government, acceptance of career status bonus, and so forth. These special circumstances may require the Defense Finance and Accounting Service to perform manual calculations of your retired pay to ensure accuracy. This doesn't happen very often, but this manual process could delay your retired pay. Therefore, we highly recommend you have a financial reserve to tide you over for 60 to 90 days, in case there are any delays with DFAS starting your retired pay. Today, we went over some very important information that you will need to know and consider prior to requesting a retirement date. We discussed things to consider for eligibility factors, ADSCs, and 7-day and 3-day option programs. We hope you found this information helpful, and we will be holding future broadcasts to cover final out processing actions. Additionally, we highly encourage you to attend a Transition Assistance Program seminar sponsored by our Airmen and Family Readiness Center even before you apply to retire.
At this time, we will answer any questions that you might still have. We highly encourage everyone to stay through the question and answer period. However, if you do have any further questions and can't stay with the broadcast, please contact us through our organizational email shown on the screen or give us a call at DSN 665-0102.
All right, thank you for joining us. We're going to answer your questions live now. So if you're on the webcast webinar, please type your questions in the chat area. Also, if you're on Facebook Live, please type your questions in on Facebook Live. Just allow us about maybe 20 seconds to reposition the microphones. You'll hear silence for about 20 seconds, and we'll be right back to answer your questions live. Please stand by. Okay, thank you so much. We have Miss Ann Lacey, our business process owner. We're going to start to answer your questions live now. Please continue to type them in the chat area.
Hello. We'll start with a question from the DCS from Roxanne Lyons. How does the Skill Bridge program work in conjunction with retirement? I believe you're referring to the career skills program that's handled through your education center. But typically that's an opportunity for you to perform an internship at a business prior to your retirement effective date. Your local education center should have more information on that, but that would be additional time off that you could get approved by your commander to allow you to work with that business before you actually do retire. Another question from the DCS from Aisha Kuhner. Sorry if I said your name wrong. My ADSC is 1 October 2019. My requested retirement date is 1 November 2019. My total active federal military service date is 21 October 1999. I have no codes. My application has been pending since 14 November. What waiver would I need? My application is currently with my AFPC assignment manager. Well, unfortunately, I don't have access to your application right now or your record in the military personnel data system to look at your individual specific case. But if you would email our organizational box, then I'll be happy to take a look at that and give you an answer first thing in the morning.
And that org box is on your screen, so you can see that org box.
Okay, a question from Facebook Live from Patrick Pearson. Can I opt out of BRS? If you opted into the blended retirement system, there is no way to reverse that it is an irrevocable decision once you completed that election form through DFAS. Another question from Facebook Live from Chris Wicks. How should you plan your long-term retirement with your short-term military retirement? Give members more education on planning retirement outside of 20 benefits. I would recommend if you're looking at long-term retirement, such as in financial investments or investing in your thrift savings plan, that you talk to the financial counselors over at the Airmen and Family Readiness Center at your local base. They can provide you with a lot of information on financial planning and other things, other programs that are available to prepare you for retirement. Okay, another question from the DCS from Christopher Riles. If my current enlistment takes me to 23 years, can I still retire at my 20-year mark? Your current enlistment doesn't necessarily limit when you can retire. Once you go over 20 years of service, then your eligibility is determined primarily by your active duty service commitments. So if you'd like, you can always submit an eligibility request or call us directly and we can look at your record and provide you more detailed information on when you'd be eligible based on your current situation. A question from Facebook Live from Christopher Gates. Is the process for applying for retirement in conjunction with HYT similar to the extension process you talked about in slide 7? We're retiring in conjunction with high year of tenure. You would apply in the same manner that you would apply for any voluntary retirement. It's done through the virtual MPF, and you can request a retirement to be effective the first day of the month following your HYT. Question from DCS from Doug Sensenbrenner. Using the 7-day option from overseas, retirement must be the day after DEROS, correct? You are correct. When you apply for retirement in the overseas area, you must request your retirement effective date to be the day after your DEROS. You can request a different date, but the best thing to do is adjust your DEROS during the DEROS selection option window, which is typically 13 months prior to your DEROS. Put in a request for an extension or DEROS adjustment. During that period of time, you have a better opportunity or chance for getting your dates lined up for when you want to retire. A question from Facebook Live from Ed Geary. Do you have to retire on the first of the month following HYT, or can you retire on an odd day of the month exactly on your HYT? The law, as we stated in the briefing, the law requires that you retire on the first day of the month for voluntary retirements. You cannot request anything other than the first day of the month. The question from DCS, what is required to have the 120-day hiring freeze waived? Who is the approval authority, and can it be applied under the expedited hiring process? And I would recommend that you contact them through the Total Force Service Center. If for some reason you can't get the information that you need on this question by calling the TFSC, then email us at our organizational email and we'll see what we can do to get you in contact with the right office. Question from Facebook Live for Denise Johnson. What is the least amount of time required to retire under the 7-day option? There is no 120-day notification required under the 7-day option. So you could technically request a very quick retirement if you're applying under 7-day option. However, you need to remember that normal retirement application processing is 4 to 6 weeks, and you have to factor in your leave and out processing actions. But you could request a date that's 1 or 2 months out, provided you are prepared to depart in that period of time. Okay, back to the DCS questions. Please confirm under normal conditions that if my retirement is on 1 April, that I will receive my last active duty paycheck on or about 1 April and my first retired paycheck on or about 1 May. That is correct. If your retirement date is 1 April, you should receive your last paycheck, active duty paycheck, around the 1st of April. But as we mentioned, there could be situations where that does get delayed by a week or two. So you should have a financial reserve to tide you over during that period of time. And then your first retirement paycheck will be the month following your retirement effective date. So in this case, if you retire 1 April, then you should get your first retirement check on 1 May. Okay, we're back to Facebook Live. A question from Stephanie Dunham. I have served 25 years. I have an ADSC until March of 16. I'm not sure. Do you mean March of 19? Could you clarify on that? But if you get an assignment and wish to retire, my date will be to my ADSC. The rules for 7-day option are for enlisted members are that you have to be able to retire by the first day of the 7th month following notification, unless you're notified right at or around the 19-year point, and then you have a few extra months in there. But since you have over 20 years of service, you have to be able to retire by the first day of the 7th month. If your ADSC is beyond that, then you would not be eligible to retire under the 7-day option program. Okay, back to the DCS. Question from Master Sergeant Krejci. How does the date initially entered uniform service apply in regard to your total service? Your DS date, or your date initially entered uniform service, actually establishes the retirement pay plan that you're under. It does not count toward determining your eligibility for retirement. That's done off of your total active federal military service date. But your DS date determines what retirement plan, like High 3 or the blended retirement system or Redux, that you would fall under. That date is actually the first date that you contract with the service, and it never changes even if you have a break in service. Okay, back to Facebook Live. A question from Jennifer Cervantes. I re-enlisted on 1 March 17 for a period of 4 years and 7 months in order to obtain the ADSC to transfer GI Bill benefits. However, now I would like to use those benefits myself and retire at exactly 20 years, which would be 1 June 2020. Can I retire in 2020, not fulfill the ADSC, and not transfer benefits, or would I have to apply for a waiver in order to retire before my enlistment is over? Well, as we mentioned in the briefing, if you're requesting to retire prior to your active duty service commitments, it would require a justified waiver to be approved in order for you to retire. In this particular case, with the GI Bill, if you, as we mentioned before, if you decide to revoke the transferability option, you still retain the active duty service commitment. So in your particular case, if you want to retire at 20 years of service, you would be required to provide justification to support a waiver to approve that early retirement. Okay, back to the DCS, a question from Senior Master Sergeant Dillon. My ADSC is 24 July 19. I got notified 22 December of an assignment. I applied under 7-day option with retirement of 1 August since I have to complete my ADSC. Slide 21 says my retirement date must be no later than the first day of the 7th month following notification, which makes it 1 July, but that doesn't complete my ADSC of 24 July 19. Well, I'm not sure what your total active date is, but if you're over 20 years of service, then you would not be eligible to request retirement for 1 August because your active duty service commitment is more than 6 months out. As we mentioned, to be eligible, you have to retire no later than the first day of the 7th month following notification. You can request an exception to policy to retire under the 7-day option with a retirement date of 1 August, but again, you would have to provide justification to support that alternate date. Okay, back to Facebook Live, a question from Crystal Gillian. Could the permissive TDY and terminal leave be taken before the internship or after? Unfortunately, I don't have the information on the internship program. If you email our organizational box or contact, well, we'll find out the answer for you, or you can contact your education center and they should be able to provide you all the criteria involved with that. But I believe you have to take that in conjunction with the internship. But again, I don't have that information available. Feel free to email us and we'll find the answer out for you. Okay, back to the DCS. Question from Master Sergeant Yazzie Williams. My total active is 9 June 1999, and my GI Bill transfer commitment expires 1 March 2020. I have an upcoming deployment for July of 19. What actions should I do for retirement before deploying, or can I take action after I return from deployment? Well, that's going to depend on when you want to retire. You can certainly wait until you return from deployment to apply for retirement. You can also apply during your deployment. If you're trying to retire in April of 2021 or 2020, excuse me, after you complete your GI Bill transferability, then the earliest you'd be able to submit an application would be 12 months out. Okay, back to Facebook Live. There's a question from Sean Leeway. Can you talk about how stop loss can affect retirement eligibility for retirement? Well, there's no discussion about stop loss at this time. If stop loss is implemented by the President of the United States, and we have not heard anything about that, then they would identify specific AFPCs and specialties that would be impacted by stop loss. And then if you're already approved for retirement, your retirement would be suspended. However, they typically allow for waivers for hardship in those particular instances. But again, there is absolutely no discussion about stop loss. So please don't start any rumor mills on that. Okay, we'll do one more question from Facebook Live. From Siobhan Kemper. An upcoming webinar for actions to be taken following approval was mentioned. Do you have a date and time? I don't have the schedule right now. I believe it's in February, but we'll be announcing that through the MyPERS marketing messages and through a MyPERS message. So just be on the lookout for that. We'll also post a schedule on MyPERS to let you know when those upcoming webinars will happen. If we didn't get to one of your questions, we will post all of these questions and answers on MyPERS as soon as possible. If you have questions that you can't wait until that's posted, then just email our organizational box and we'll be glad to get you an answer. Thanks for attending today.